I have a strange relationship with early access games. Sometimes I'll play for a bit and decide to put it off until the full game is out. Other times I'll be interested at first but get burnt out and move on, forgetting it even existed by the time it finally releases. Occasionally though, I'll find a game that's just the right blend of good times that I keep coming back with every update until it finally puts up that victorious 1.0 flag and I get to say I've been along for the whole ride. And with Hardspace Shipbreaker, I have to say it's been a pretty fun ride. Shipbreaking is a real profession, and much like your experience in this game, it's very dangerous and challenging work. However, instead of stripping vital parts and scrap metal from big-ass boats on the ground, you're tasked with taking apart medium-ass spaceships while in orbit around Earth. With this extraterrestrial move into the futuristic vacuum of space, you get a whole new set of hazards like limited oxygen, the potential of puncturing your suit, as well as the dangers associated with highly volatile spaceship-related components like reactors. You aren't left to face these perils without proper tools though. You're outfitted with the 1-2 punch of the laser cutter and utility grapple. The modular laser cutter has two modes. The first is the precision stinger that you can use to pinpoint materials that need to no longer exist and cook them with a concentrated beam of hotness until they vaporize. The second mode, split saw, is used when you need to get one thing into two things as fast as possible. In the narrow passageways and tight spaces of ship interiors, being able to work with minimal collateral damage is an important way to keep your body fully intact for another day. However, when you're working on a tight schedule, you can't be spending every second waiting for things to heat up and your laser to cool down. That's where the split saw comes in. This bad boy could slice up a pizza faster than a Ninja Turtle with its rotating adjustable cutting angle and instant laser separation capabilities. But with its quick action comes the chance of overcutting and producing some less than optimal results. Once you do carve these spacefaring behemoths into manageable pieces, the handheld utility grapple is what you'll equip to wrangle chunks, parts, and sometimes yourself where each needs to go. It can grab materials and exert your will on them with a simple tug in the desired direction. It also has the ability to apply a powerful nudge from the business end to give the extra motivation things need to get where they're going. Not long after you start though, you'll unlock the incredibly useful lassoing power of tethers, which you can use to haul shit in every direction while you continue cracking open ships like a giant tasty lobster full of valuable parts. These two main pieces of equipment are the dual pillars upon which your entire career rests. Ultimately, you do unlock demo charges that can be used to cut through materials your laser cutter couldn't best, but they can very quickly get you into some uncomfortable situations, and they weren't used as much as I thought they would be. All of these are aided by your scanner system that gives you magical X-ray vision so you can see the danger a little bit earlier and feel extra stupid when you still run face first into it. Although it can definitely help you track down some of the often microscopic but extremely important components before you send everything barreling into the inferno of the furnace. This furnace is part of the trio of repositories within which you'll shovel the carved up carcass of each ship you salvage. In the salvage bay, a processor and a furnace adorn each side, and their gaping maws await materials large and small to be weighed and broken down for payment calculation. The processor takes most of the high-value hardened materials like ship exteriors, piping, and doors. The furnace is a place for the softer, lower-quality materials or anything you happen to break that are cooked down to a hot, delicious soup to be reformed into new garbage down the line. At the bottom of the salvage yard, at least as close to the bottom as you can get in space, is the barge. Here all the reusable materials like ship engines, computer terminals, docking collars, storage bins, and other tediously small objects get tossed. These often end up being the most lucrative pieces on the ship and, of course, the ones most likely to break and/or kill you all the way to death. At its core, Hardspace Shipbreaker is all about making as much money as possible to dig yourself out of a dead-end life on a dystopian Earth afflicted by massive global climate change. What your desperate protagonist doesn't know is that they're signing away their life for over $1 billion of debt. Even though you're clearing millions of dollars from salvaged ships, the fees from each shift can make nosediving into that furnace seem like it might be the best choice for you. However, if you do find yourself incinerated, whether by choice or accidentally, you won't be dead. Or at least some version of you won't. Part of your contractual agreement gives your employer the freedom to clone you, and after your unscheduled end-of-life experience, you'll wake up tools in hand, ready to keep working. The game mode you choose will determine how careful you need to be and basically function as a difficulty level. The open shift mode has no time limits for working on a ship, as well as unlimited revives and oxygen. The standard mode, which was the original design for the game, allows 15-minute shifts and oxygen drains as you float around in the vacuum of space, but it still maintains unlimited revives. The final two modes limit your lives, one of them to a somewhat generous 30 revives and the other to just 1. Each of these increases the level of ass-clenching you'll need to achieve to satisfy your goals as a salvager. With only one life, a single wayward cut or moment of poor position could end your entire career. But we live in an age of Dark Souls, so I suspect there will be fans of this masochistic fantasy. Despite almost 2 full years of development and early access and quite a few fundamental changes to the game, Hardspace Shipbreaker still provides the same cathartic and almost hypnotizing experience that it did initially. There have been some obvious changes, like a movement to professional voice actors for your squad of friendly co-workers, as well as some extremely unsavory antagonists. They've also introduced a visual component to the hub that you return to between shifts, which gives a lot more character to the universe. You can even customize it to a degree with posters you find sifting through ships. The progression system still has you unlocking larger and more complex ships as you go, but now instead of having quotas for specific parts, it's all about meeting milestones and overall salvaged value. So instead of haphazardly ripping ships apart to get to their sweet juicy centers, you benefit most by making as much money as possible. This also provides the most resources to level up and unlock upgrades for your equipment, such as having enough tethers to make tangled webs of failure and lasers that laser just a little bit more efficiently. While they have added a solid number of additional ships and interesting design challenges within them, like these radioactive filters, it kind of doesn't feel like a lot of effort was taken in adding to the overall depth of gameplay. For instance, they removed cut guards that made it impossible to slice through some cut points until you shattered this hardened material from around them. Most would agree they were annoying, but mostly because there weren't consistent mechanics to get through them. Instead of adding a tool or function to a tool to address them, they just removed them altogether. There are a few areas where complex actions were added, like cutting out these thrusters and racing a fire back to a fuel tank shutoff, but after doing this identically about 10 times, it got old. It's never explored in more dynamic ways or intertwined with other mechanics, which seems like a theme across the board. It's also a little strange to see such a strong focus on the narrative aspects when you have virtually no direct interaction with the story. Being a silent protagonist and having a bunch of characters tell a story at you when you have no choices to make or actions to take is rarely an interesting design for a game. It does culminate in a way that makes it at least feel engaging, and the voice actors do a solid job, but it can seem a little heavy at times for a game that otherwise feels kind of lighthearted and satirical. There's still bits of the world building derived from finding data drives and similar objects within the quarters of the ships, and these still create a fun way to learn about what's going on outside of your salvage yard. These are also now joined by an assortment of tiny ship parts that you collect to repair a fixer-upper that you're given in the second act of the non-interactive narrative. This comes with its own little risk-reward element, since these parts can also be ripped from things you need to salvage, like computer terminals, though the game doesn't bother telling you if it's important to fix this ship for most of the game, so they kind of forgot the reward part. The somewhat mixed bag of changes from launch has done little to sour my experience with Hardspace Shipbreaker. It would have been nice to see the development focus on expanding the mechanics, varieties of ships, and the dangers within, though. Yet the story they do tell about a dystopian capitalist society is one that's relevant today. Maybe it even has some echoes in the fact that the developer, Blackbird Interactive, moved to a company-wide 4-day workweek this year. When you combine the entrancing gameplay of methodically breaking things, all set to a strangely appropriate soundtrack blending bluegrassy Americana right alongside some bassy electronic space music, it was easy to lose another 20 hours in a game I've already spent 50 in. Hardspace Shipbreaker finally gave me that space salvage experience I've been looking for in other games for quite a while now, and few games I've played managed to deliver such innovative gameplay. My only desire for the future is, now that the story portion is complete, their post-launch goals involve adding more ships, hazardous encounters, and content that will have me spending another 70 hours carving up spaceships and dying in the process. If you'd like to see more hot takes, warm satire, and tepid commentary about video games, make sure to subscribe and check out my other abbreviated and unabbreviated reviews.